Alright, and last but not least, we've got video 3. And we're going to finish this question 2, finish this back page. So question C says, interpret the meaning of the slope in the context of the problem. So my slope is negative 0.63. So remember, slope is always y over x. So if we go back and we know that y is hours of sleep and x is age in years, that must mean that was a bad A. Let's try this one. A decrease of 0.6 of 0.63 hours of sleep for each age you get older. So for each additional year. Alright, so decrease of 0.63 hours of sleep for each additional year. So every year you get older, you should need about 0.63 less hours of less sleep. Alright, question D. Interpret the meaning of the y-intercept in the context of the problem. Does the y-intercept make sense? Why or why not? So if we scroll back up to the graph here, we've got that y-intercept of 14.89. So if we are 0 years old, we would need 14.89 hours of sleep. So 14.89 hours of sleep. For someone who is 0 years old. All right, and do you think that this makes sense? Go ahead and answer that on the computer. Hopefully you said no, it does not make sense. There's actually 2 reasons why it doesn't make sense. Number one, you're not actually ever 0 years old, right? If you're less than 1, you still have some days, you still have some months to you, so you're not actually 0 years old. And the second thing is that if you know that a newborn gets way more sleep than 14 hours of sleep a night or a day, they get way more than that. So that doesn't make sense there either. All right, question E. Use the graph to predict the hours of sleep required by a 22-year-old. Does your answer make sense? Why or why not? So for this one, we're going to use the graph. So let's go up to the graph. So let's continue this line here. So we want to know for a 22-year-old. So I'll circle that. Let's see where our line's going to go. So if we continue that line, it looks like a 22-year-old is going to need 2 hours of sleep. So make sure you write down the answer there. And then on the computer, go ahead and answer, does this make sense? Hopefully you answered no. It definitely doesn't make sense because it doesn't matter how old you are, you definitely need more than 2 hours of sleep. And question F. The recommended amount of sleep for an adult is 7 to 8 hours. For what age does the line of best fit stop making sense? So once again, let's go up and look at our graph. We've got that 7 to 8 range right here. So for what age does that line stop making sense? And if we look, it's going to be right around 12 years old is right when that line 12, 13 years old is right when this graph is going to stop making sense, because it's doesn't make sense for us to get 5 hours of sleep or 4 hours of sleep or 3, and so on. So 12 to 13 years old. Because it definitely doesn't make sense for anyone older than that to get less than 7 to 8 hours of sleep.